Welcome back to another episode of Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times. Having a little chuckle to myself because I almost forgot what I say every time. It's so automatic that as soon as I start thinking about it, I mess it up. Just like tying your shoes. If somebody asks you, how do you tie shoes? And you actually have to think about it, it's quite hard. But we do it automatically, which is a great segue for today's episode. Today is all about curating your normal, choosing your normal, being conscious about what in your life do you do that's normal but not healthy, and what do you do in your life that's normal to you but is healthy, and to start getting rid of those things that are normal and unhealthy and replacing them with new normals so that your life, it's like just normal to be a healthy, happy, optimistic, productive human being, right? And that we can denormalize, I don't know if that's a word, like self-loathing and self-destructive behavior and all these things. So we unpack this in quite a bit of detail in this episode because I think it's extremely important that we look at what our society believes is normal, in many cases not healthy, not productive. So, but there's also some stuff that is great. This is not a negative Nancy episode, so don't worry, we got your back. Please enjoy talking about curating your normal or choosing your normal. People, slow down. It's time to focus
Take
up.
a break.
Take a break, but focus.
Stop the car, get out and put your headphones in and just look at the sky.
Well, you can only do that if you're in a Benji mobile, if you have a Tesla with a glass roof.
Sit on the
Otherwise,
roof
you're just going to look at a bunch of stains on the ceiling. But if you do, in fact, have a glass roof, yeah, look up, gander at the sky. If not, stick your head out if it's legal in that country. Apparently, I'm in Mongolia and pretty much anything is legal, aka nothing is enforced. But I don't know if it's true. Sometimes my wife makes up things and she tells my kids that if they stick their head out the window, they'll get arrested. I don't think that is necessarily true.
Are your kids like, they hear that and they go, yeah, I don't want to get arrested? Or is one of them like, all right, I'm going to see how far I can push this?
The youngest one is very obedient to those things and he remembers them emotionally. My wife told him that somebody gave us smart shoes. And so that could mean a lot of things. So my wife was like, oh, be careful with these shoes because when you turn them on, they'll start walking for you. And so when I put them on him, they couldn't figure out how to turn them on. I turn them on. It's just lights, right? So I was like, put them on. He's like, no, they're going to start walking. No, buddy. EG's, I don't know. Your mom is having a time with you, but he wouldn't. He was like scared. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
The other ones kind of know the game a little bit more, that she could just be saying it in jest, or I don't know. Sometimes she just says stuff that may or may not be true for her own amusement. Yeah. What about your kids?
I love how everyone has the thing they interpreted the wrong way when we were kids. And I'm curious to hear what everyone has. If you're listening, why don't you guys comment somewhere wherever you're listening to, or tell somebody what your thing is.
Yeah, somebody told you something. And this is the problem, right? When you have imagine a big bag and that bag is all your experiences. There's some stuff that you were told when you were a kid that was completely false and you totally believed it and it did you harm. Other stuff you were told that wasn't true probably could have done you well. Like my kids, I hope they're not listening to this, still don't know about Santa Claus yet. This has been a ruse that as they get older is harder and harder to explain. Things like the Tooth Fairy, how she has multiple currencies because we travel a lot, things like that, and how it really fluctuates. They could get like 20 cents to $20. There's no rhyme or reason. That stuff is, I think, useful because it helps them elicit imagination, right? Wow. But then there's other stuff. Do you have any examples of things that you wholeheartedly believed and it was definitely not helpful, I guess?
My mom told me when I was a kid, I asked why it doesn't snow on Christmas, like in the movies. and
Yeah.
she said if because we live in North Carolina, she said if we get snow, it's lucky. It's like we're lucky if we get snow like that. And so how does a kid interpret that is if we doesn't snow, it means we're unlucky.
Well,
And so
like some
every
kids,
Christmas in North Carolina where it never snows on Christmas ever, I woke up and I'm like, we're unlucky. This year we're unlucky. Our family's cursed because it didn't snow.
yeah, I was gonna say at least
So
she's not some religious nut where she's like, it's because of your sins that it doesn't
yeah,
snow. Some
no,
parents are done that.
I misinterpreted what she meant. But I held down that for years, and then I told her, like, I think this year actually, I told her that, and she felt really bad about it. Like, I'm so sorry, all the things I've said. I was like, no, it's fine. I just heard it the wrong way. My kids believe in evil Santa, which is a Santa that I invented. It's the evil twin of Santa Claus that comes through our house and throws away all the toys that are on the floor, and he gives them to less fortunate children around the world. So actually, he's a good Santa, right? In the sense that Santa Claus, the Christmas Santa, is the one that's kind of spoiling kids, and evil Santa, as we call him, is the one that's taking from the spoiled, entitled kids and giving to the children that don't have toys and Legos and such.
Good and evil seems to be defined as what you believe is healthy parenting.
No, I do that.
Benevolence versus
Yeah.
conditional love.
Well, here's the reason it works. I'll tell you why it works for us, because they 100% know it's me.
Really?
Yeah, 100. I mean, they were like, not young kids when I told them about this story. I was like, we're going to do evil Santa now, and everything that's on the floor at the end of the day is going to go into a giant black trash bag, because that's what evil Santa carries around as a sack, and he's going to go to every house in the world every night of the year, not just once a week, not just once a year, every night of the year. And he works his butt off. He's really skinny, and he's got a big gray beard and a black hat and a giant trash bag. And he goes around to every house and throws away stuff. And so I did that for like about a week, and I have a trash bag full of stuff. I still have it in our shed, and they know it's there. But I tell them that if they can identify what evil Santa took, and they have to write a letter to evil Santa saying, "Dear evil Santa, can you please return my XYZ?" And they have to be specific, then they can have it back. But usually they don't remember what they left behind because it didn't really value it in the first place. So
Hmm.
and now they clean up, like, for the last few years, like every night. I don't ask ever, so it completely fixed it. So I don't think it's traumatizing because they know
Wow.
it's me. They 100% know it's me.
Benji's parenting style sponsored by the Chinese Communist government.
Well, actually, to be honest, like it is really liberating parenting advice for me that I wish I learned a while ago. Is because I was
Hmm.
getting really stressed about it. Like every night, like, guys, can you clean up, and just kind of pulling teeth, right? And then I decided to make it a fun thing. And then I started enjoying it. I was like, hey guys, Evil Santa's coming tonight. He loves Legos. Why don't you give the Evil Santa some of your Legos and some of your stuffed animals? He loves this stuff. And they're like, no, not Evil Santa. And they clean it up right immediately. So it turned a net negative experience into a positive one for me. And then because it was positive, this
Uh-huh.
kind of gets into our topic, by the way, Andrew. Because it was a
Uh-huh.
positive experience, I enjoyed doing it. Therefore, I did it more consistently, which is what's needed in order to teach a lesson to children, especially. And because I enjoyed doing it, I did it more consistently. And now I don't say anything, and they will clean up. They'll actually like go back downstairs after they've gotten ready for bed, and they will make sure that everything's cleaned up. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so we're talking about choosing your normal today, right? And this is something that I don't think anybody actually thinks about, but you should. Like, this is something that I really got into actually when I joined the church. I had to decide what I wanted to be normal because
Mm-hmm.
I lived my whole life up until a certain point a certain way, and that was normal to me. How I thought about God, how I related to God, how I related to religious people, and all this. And then I was really confronted by the fact that, hey, maybe I was wrong. But there's the intellectual understanding of, oh my God, there might be something to this whole religion thing. But then there's the whole, oh crap, now I have to hang out with religious people. and say words like God and God bless you. My dad used to like say it. He doesn't, he's not religious, or I don't know why but he would say like, God bless you. Oh, when we would sneeze, and my
Mm.
sister and I would always scold him. We'd be like, Dad, don't say that. That's so stupid, right? Like, don't say God around us. So then I had to be, I mean, it was part and parcel of the whole package of like being a believer is
Mm.
saying certain things that you believe in now. And so it was abnormal and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel, because right. Anyway, I think we can unpack this, but I
Yeah.
just I want to throw this out there as a statement of fact that I think everybody listening should consider, is that what you deem to be normal should be intentional, and you should revise all the things that you think are normal, believe are normal, and say, is this productive or not? Or do I need to choose a better normal, a more productive normal? Okay. And I'd like to unpack a bunch of different possibilities with you, because this can go
Mm.
really deep and it can go
Yeah.
wide. It can, like, every facet of your life, because again, when I started to like become a religious person, then all of a sudden I'm like, and we're not just a normal religion, right? There's a lot of quirks that come with our faith. And so I was like, that's not normal. But then I was like, wait, what is normal? Like, you, I know a lot of young people are so super embarrassed about things like Champyong and Chanyang and stuff like that, because if you took a video of it, which I did by accident, I got in so much trouble. I went to Champyong the first time. I didn't know you weren't supposed to, take a picture of, or take a video of Ansu at that time, or,
Mm.
Chanyang. Uh, if you took a video of that and put the wrong music behind it, like Marilyn Manson or something like that, it could look super evil and weird based on the context, right? Because it's not normal behavior. But what is normal behavior? It's extremely normal for college kids to go out and get drunk until they passed out, which is so bad for every part of your body. They say alcohol is actually bad for every cell of your body. It's bad for your brain, it's bad for your liver, it's bad for everything. But it's normal to get wasted, which completely is counterintuitive to the learning experience of college. So, college, as we know it now, what's normal is not at all productive or healthy. You're supposed to get a lot of sleep, eat well, definitely not drink or do drugs if you want to learn. So right now we're in a state where college is extremely expensive. People aren't learning very much. They're leaving and they're not in an optimal state for learning. Okay. And Chanyang is abnormal. But there's actually so many benefits to it when you start doing the research and you start like asking people who, like, there's this one kid who really didn't believe in it. And he's like, it's crazy. I don't believe in any of that Champyong stuff. Oh yeah, but then my dad went there and he had terminal bone cancer and he came out a few weeks later and it was gone. But I mean, and then he just, that was like an
Mhm.
aside. And I was like, can we stop for a second and just acknowledge what you're saying? Like, you're so
Mm.
really, like, choosing your normal goes really as far as your own faith and like being embarrassed because society doesn't deem something to be normal. Well, it doesn't mean that it's not good because it's not normal, right? I mean, you grew up in an abnormal, you were super abnormal because you're part of a minority faith. You were in North Carolina as a half Japanese person, which not so many Japanese people in North Carolina, I'm guessing. And you were homeschooled. So
And I got
essentially you
married.
were.
I got married at 18 and had my son at 22. First kid at 22. It's not so
So let's
normal.
unpack that. Like, you were abnormal. Did you feel abnormal, and did that feel bad? Did you feel guilty for being abnormal, or were you even aware of the fact that you were not like most people?
Mm. Well, I had an acute awareness that being normal sucked from a young age.
Wow.
I think when you are removed a little bit, kind of like a spectator of culture, and homeschooling has its pros and cons. For me, it was a big pro because I could spectate on culture and I was kind of very aware of what's going on in the world, even though it's counterintuitive because people think that homeschoolers are not aware of what's going on in the world. But I would actually argue that depending on how you do it, homeschoolers are actually exposed to more because they're usually in the right setting interacting with more different age groups and socioeconomic classes and a lot with adults too, as opposed to being in one class with one grade with the same group of friends for your whole life most of the day. Like that's kind of, in my experience and perspective, a more secluded experience, right?
Sure.
So I was very aware from the beginning, or from like 16 years old, that being normal sucked and I didn't want to be normal,
Mm.
because normal is addicted to porn. Normal is getting, like you said, getting drunk at college. Normal is dropping out. Normal is dating around. Normal is not getting married until you're 30, 40 years old and having kids when it's almost too late, you know?
Yeah.
And then I started looking at the stats and not about like, what is the average person's, you know, mental health like, or body like, especially in the States, or their financial
Mm.
situation. I was like, normal sucks. I really don't want to be normal in terms of
Yeah.
the majority of people. If we're defining normal as like the majority of people, I actually want to be weird. I would prefer to be outlandishly abnormal and kind
Sure.
of otherworldly in terms of what everyone else is doing. But to answer the question about like getting blessed, you know, when I was 18 years old, I actually didn't, like, to be honest, I didn't think I was young. Like, it didn't cross my mind. And then now it does. When I meet an 18-year-old, it's like, I really want to get matched and blessed. I'm kind of like, tell me a little bit about yourself first, before I can, you know, before you jump into something. Uh, and I'm not saying people should or shouldn't do that, but for me, it was like, I want to get blessed. And I knew that. And I really didn't consider that I wasn't ready or I was young or anything like that. When I
Mm.
had our first kid at 22, like we were blessed already for 4 years. And to me at the time, I was like we're blessed for 4 years. What's the point of this blessing if we're not going to have kids? It just was it was like a natural thing. It actually felt weird. It felt more weird not having kids, to be honest. I felt like I'm uncomfortable. Like, I don't see the point personally. This was my view. Is like, I don't see the point of being in a blessing and living together if we're not going to pursue children.
Mm.
And that was just like my view on it. And I didn't think it was weird or different, actually. But I think about it now, I'm like, yeah, 22-year-old. And, like thinking back in retrospect, yeah, of course, there's a lot of things that I could have known before, or, in terms of like my own growth journey and healing and maturity, but I don't regret it at all, because the life I have is great, and the family I have is great. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Which is not normal. Again, divorce is normal, right?
Yeah. Divorce is normal.
So, on an individual level, I want to do a bit of an inventory about what is normal, and as much as we can, to not like make judgment, pass judgment, but just to kind of offer you a perspective shift, or the potential for a perspective shift, which is to like look at the elements of your life and see what is normal and say, do I want that to be normal or not? Right. So, phone usage, right? Phone usage, I've noticed some alarming trends societally. And I travel a lot, so it's like across the board. It seems to happen more and more. Back in the day, if you were in a public environment, you wouldn't dare take a call
Mm.
like on a bus or a subway or somewhere like that. You just kind of let it ring. If you had a really loud ringtone, you would apologize publicly for disturbing everybody. And you for sure wouldn't like answer the call and just brazenly converse, right? But now people not only do that and like speak, like yell into their phone everywhere. Like I've seen this in every country I've been to, but people will watch videos like on their phone in public transit, in public environments, in restaurants or whatever. And this is the new normal, which is like people pretending like they're in their own world but in a public space. It's the weird phenomenon of being in a car where you're in public, it could be in traffic, you're a few inches from another car and another person, but you feel like this is your own world. If somebody cuts you off, you're like, I hate you, you're gonna die because this is my space, my lane. And you listen to music as loud as you want. You have your own kind of environment, and you have these
Yeah.
people who are, but now it's like the next layer is people doing that without the car, where they're like, just watching videos aloud, taking calls and all this stuff. And that's the new normal.
Mhm.
And people, because they're in their own world more with their phones, are less likely to converse with other people, even make eye contact with other people in public. That's the new normal too, is like people are increasingly more intimidated and afraid of each other, because we're not used to just looking up and seeing somebody and smiling at them. And the more you plugged into your phone, the scarier real life is, especially in public situations where you're already a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of like your phone, is it normal for you to use it in situations that maybe is not the most productive? Do you pull it out if you have family or friends? Do you, when you get bored, just pull it out and like almost like put over that Harry Potter cloak where you just disappear? Now you're in your phone, right? So phone usage, there's a lot of, I think, very unhealthy normals, things that we're used to or getting used to, but are ultimately clearly not productive or healthy, you know? So
Yeah.
that's one thing, personal and public use of your phone.
Mm. Hey, so you're a man or woman of faith. You want to have a radiant blessing and family, but you're weighed down by the reality of unwanted sexual behavior, porn, masturbation. You know the drill. If you want to get rid of this stuff and take this seriously, check out the High Noon program called Ascend. It is available for you guys. It's totally for free at highnoon.org, and we want to help guide you through this process of eliminating these shadows from your life, like so many hundreds of others have in the Ascend program. So check it out, highnoon.org. See ya. There's a up and coming trend in many countries. I've noticed it a lot in the States because I spent a lot of time in the States, is families on their phones during meals at restaurants.
No,
And
that's so
I'm
weird.
particularly aware, we've seen this together actually. We've been at restaurants and noticed, I remember in Chicago, right? But
Yeah,
I've noticed a lot of like little kids and their parent, like one parent, it's mom or a mom and dad and one little kid, 2, 3 years old, and the kid is on the phone. And I was always so confused by that. But then I noticed it being really normalized. And then I actually asked one mother one time because we were kind of like, I guess, getting friendly, having conversation with her. And I asked her, I was like, I'm just really
choose your
curious.
words wisely, Benji.
What?
we were,
getting
we were
friendly
getting
with
friendly.
I was getting friendly with this Latina mom. She was Latina, if that matters at all to the story. But I was telling, I was like, I'm just really curious. Why are you letting her do this while you're having dinner together? And she said something that actually changed a belief I have, which is she said, "Oh, it's because it's good for her." Right? And then I realized that this is a very completely opposing belief that I have, and that's why I was confused. Is that
Sure,
there's a entire generation of parents and kids that believe, because their values are such that they perhaps think that education and being technologically savvy are the way of the future and is going to guarantee success in kids. And so they'll
sure,
actually encourage, which is a completely opposing force to me and my beliefs, is like they'll actually encourage their kids to
sure.
be on a phone. And that's like a normalized belief. And I've seen it more and more. And it makes sense. I mean, I don't agree with it, but it makes sense as to why we've seen an uptick in just kids on their phones, you know?
Yeah, and again, without judging other people, it's what are you willing to fight for in your own life, in your own family life? To like, what are you willing to prevent from becoming normalized in your family, right? Like, uh it's, yeah, food, think about it, food, fitness, phone usage, basically a bunch of phonetically F sounding things. Isolation. A lot of people normalize certain emotions. This is again, you can choose your emotional norms. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm just a sarcastic person, or I'm just an angry person. It's like, no, that's just what you're used to allowing yourself to be. You can neurologically and
Mm.
physiologically change who you are as like a baseline, as like, this is my normal state, this is my homeostasis, right? But most people just believe that they are this way, and that's just what you're used to. And so, yeah, the type of friends that you have, the type of thoughts that you have, you can normalize productive constructive, optimistic thoughts. I actually just downloaded a bunch of books last night because I realized that, right now, every election, the the world seems like it's going to explode, because that's how politics works now. Is like, it's not about extolling your virtues and your triumphs as a person. Like, a politician is not like, here's my credentials, this is all the things that I've done, vote for me. They're like, that person over there murders children, right? Or like, they think of the worst thing that,
Yeah.
and then they expand that to like, if you elect this person, everybody's gonna die. And the media feeds off of this, because it's so. I realized, holy moly, I started to have some legit, um, some anxiety rising, just like a general, my anxiety baseline started to become more normalized. I started to wake up and start having worrying thoughts. And so I just recently, I just started condition yesterday, which is all about much more gratitude and focusing on all the great things happening in life. And part of that is I downloaded a bunch of books, and there's some great books that are like factual based books about how our life is better than it's ever been collectively as a humanity. We're living longer.
Mm.
We have better access to everything, money, food, healthy food, everything. And it's just a matter of your perspective, right? So I realized that I was normalizing anxiety little by little. And this is the sneaky part, is like, you just like justify certain emotions. Oh, I'll just be a little sad today, and then tomorrow just a little bit more. And what you're doing is you're normalizing sadness. It's just like you're letting it exist, it occupy more space, real estate in you. But you can choose that. Like, obviously there's certain sadness that needs to be processed and understood, but this anxiety thing, I was begrudgingly opening the door to more anxiety in my life. So now I'm in the process of reconditioning myself to normalize optimism. And I can see it. It's really one thought at a time. Because I was unconsciously absorbing all this pessimism, and now I'm consciously choosing to reframe it, and not to be blind and like, oh, the world's going to be perfect every day, but rather choosing what I want to be normal in terms of thoughts. So I see a problem, I know there's a solution. So it even goes down to your thoughts, right? But I also wanted to bring up, um, you know, the idea of normalizing how you use your room, how you use your house, your apartment, whatever. Um, are Do you use it productively? Do you have a good relationship with it, or do you feel really weird when you're on your couch? And is that your normal? Like, every time I go on this couch, I lie down, take out my phone, and I zone out, and then I feel like crap. If that's your normal for your relationship with your couch, either change your couch or change your relationship with it, right? And part of it, we advise people to do this with their phones, right? Which is like to move around all their apps, because you unconsciously just scroll and go to certain apps. But what if you put them all over the place? Or this one young guy I know, he got his brother to move all of his apps over everywhere, so he's really unfamiliar. You could do the same thing with your bedroom, with your house. Just move furniture so that you're forced to reimagine an intentional relationship with that space. But yeah, it's like it's physical and practical normalization, but it's also emotional, social, spiritual. Yeah.
Yeah, I just did that with my phone yesterday.
Nice.
So I reoriented my relationship with it. So there's just certain things I can't do it anymore. And to me, it's not about blocking stuff for the sake of blocking it. It's for the sake of just not making an option in my head, so I don't have to think about it anymore.
Mm.
So Hitoe has set up a password. There's an app called Block Site, and it has a password feature, and it can just literally block websites and apps. Because I was like random stats on stuff, just like so now I kind of like funneled in my attention to a few things that I can do, like ChatGPT, right? We're having conversations with AI, which is cool. So that's one thing that I spend a lot of my phone time doing, or just journaling, right? So I had to kind of recalibrate myself a bit just yesterday, because I felt like
Mm.
similarly, it was like there were certain things that were just causing me emotions that I didn't feel like I wanted, anxiety, and I just had to change it up a bit.
So cool. It's so cool that we have this power. And now we're in a society where that's becoming normalized, where you have entire massive sections of the bookstore that are self-help, or right, this kind of stuff that was not normal before. People didn't have the space for that. They were just trying to survive. um but even think about relationships. I noticed this was like a month ago. I went through a bit of a rough spell with my wife where we were just normalizing tension. And so our bodies were becoming used to a certain rhythm. And so I just, after a couple of weeks, I was like, good Lord. So we just went through the process of reconditioning and normalizing different behavior. And it's been remarkable how quickly you can turn things around when it's an intentional process of like, I don't want to normalize thinking negatively about you. I
Mm.
don't want that to be a normal thought. If I think negatively about you, I want that to be like a giant warning sign of, oh, something's off here, right? Because if that becomes normal, then it becomes your default state. And then you start to think about that person and be like, that person sucks or whatever, right? So again, it goes as deep as your thoughts. What thoughts do you want to be normal, and which thoughts do you want to chase out of town and make them very uncomfortable? If they're going to still come, but do you want them to be comfortable? Do you want hateful thoughts to feel like they have a home in your head, right? Do you want
Yeah.
negative emotions to feel like, oh, I found my native land in your heart, right? Or do you want them to pass by and be like, ew, this place is gross, I need to move on, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's multifaceted. In terms of thoughts, that's a good place to start. And emotions, of like, do you have normalized thoughts and emotions that you would like to replace with something more productive? Would you like to normalize something else? And then, habits. Let's talk about food. I really hate having junk food in my house, because whenever I'm bored and I'm in my house, I'll go to my cupboard, and then I'll go to my fridge, and then I'll go back to my cupboard. And it's like this process could go on for 15 minutes where I'm just going back and forth. There's nothing there to eat, but I'll look like something's going to materialize, right? But every once in a while, we had two guests over at our house at 2 different days, and they both brought chocolate,
Mhm.
and one brought soda too. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? So it was in our house, and I noticed I had a soda this week. I haven't had a soda like in my house like ever in my life. And so it was there and I drank it. And I was like, I'm so glad that I normalize going to the grocery store and seeing certain aisles as like, I don't even go down them. I know there's nothing for me there, because if that stuff is in my house, then I'm going to normalize eating it. And cheese is like a danger zone for me. If I normalize having a lot of cheeses in my fridge, I will start to gain what is called a tire around my belly of fat, because I just can't stop myself from eating it. So I normalize sparsely having cheese there, because again, I don't mind that I'm going to occupy myself by looking in my cupboard and fridge and whatever. It's a harmless activity so long as there's nothing there for me to binge on. So again, my
Yeah.
normal is having my certain things in my house and certain things not in my house keeps me healthy. Because if it's not an option, I'm not going to go out to the
Yeah.
store and buy a tub of ice cream. I'm not, because I know
Well, I
that
think, yeah.
sorry.
Well, the emotion that you referred to, a lot of people deal with is boredom. And so
Sure.
so what's your method of normalizing a new normal for dealing with that particular state?
I don't know if it's necessarily bad. It could be my body looking for something, but in haste, it will accept the alternative. So, yeah, I remember George Kazakis linking the correlations. Like when you think you want chips, you might just need something really salty. You need sodium, and that could be something way healthier than chips, right? Sugar too is like you could need some more blood sugar stuff. There's far better ways of getting it than we do keep fruit in the house, right? I'm a believer in fruit. Um, so just settling for that. So I don't think it's necessarily boredom. It's just like changing things up in between tasks. And I'm not often home anyway, but this is like if I'm working at home for whatever reason, I'll just need a break from my computer. And if I'm in a giant house, then I probably won't go to the kitchen. But if I'm like right now, we're in a teeny tiny apartment. and there's not many options. So my source of entertainment is going to the cupboard, right?
Mhm.
And it's like I said, it's a harmless thing because
Yeah.
it gives me like this hunting. Men need to hunt, and if we don't hunt for something productive, we'll hunt for stupid stuff like on Amazon or whatever. But this is
Mm.
just me hunting for an invisible treat that I know isn't there, but it's still fun. It's like solving an impossible riddle.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I think it turns something that's typically a shadow for people into something that is actually quite God given. And I think this
sure,
is the truth that evil is not really the opposite of good, but it's just a skewed version of good or a twisted version of what good actually is. And like most prevalent in our community is sexuality itself. You know what I'm saying? Like the vast majority of people do view their sexuality as bad in our
mm-hmm.
community and wrong and evil. And
Mm-hmm.
then they stop and think, okay, is there any goodness in my sexuality? And seldom do people ever ask that question. But I think it's a really transformative question to ask, because then you can start to notice how you can use that God given drive and sexual energy for productive things. And the thing you mentioned was like sodium and salt. I think that's cool too. Like the desire for something salty is like, we could just call it evil and wrong in the shadow and squash it down, or say, okay, maybe my body's trying to tell me something. Maybe there's a goodness under this. There's a desire under
Sure.
the desire that is innate, or the sugar, the desire for some fruit, right? And you said you're a believer in fruit. It makes me think that there are people that don't believe in fruit, if there are any.
Oh man,
Sorry,
yeah. There's a ton of
sorry to
people that
offend you
say it's.
guys. We believe in the food that's on the planet that is just hanging from trees. Anyways, besides the point, when you're talking about emotions, I know this
Mhm.
is something that is a very common conversation with the guys that or the people, guys and gals that we mentor, is when people realize that the emotions themselves are not wrong or evil. It's actually
Sure.
a divinely good desire and need under the emotion of boredom, usually is just a need to move and to do something and to
Sure.
be creative and to produce something. You know what I'm saying? And to be with people. Loneliness, although very unpleasant, is a desire to not be alone, is to connect with a human and to find a spouse and have children and be in community, right? All of the emotions are given to us for a reason. And then when people see that and realize that and like ascend, for example, when they go, oh, it's not that I have like, I'm just some perverted sexual freak of nature. I just don't know how to deal with stress so well. And like, that's it. It's like, yeah, you nailed it. So figure out how to deal with stress. How do you use stress in a way that was given to you intentionally by God, and use it to your advantage in the way that it's meant to be used as, right? And so then they go like, okay, well, when I'm stressed or anxious or lonely, what do I do? And then the thing we encourage people to do always is to connect with somebody. Ideally, that's like
Mhm.
the ultimate form of dealing with an emotion, because you can talk about it, you can receive grace, you can practice the five virtues in one conversation with a human being, right? If they're somebody that can give you grace and keep you accountable. And
Mhm.
then a really interesting question that people ask if someone's somewhat insightful is, how do I make that easier to do, to connect with someone? Because for some people it's easy to do, and for some people it's really hard, especially when you don't want to. If you're really down, you're having a funk, as you call it, you're emotionally low, and the last thing you want to do when you're stressed or angry is like connect with someone. But we encourage people to do that. And then they go, well, how do I make it easy? Like a knee-jerk reaction. As soon as I feel something, I want to connect, I want to talk to God, I want to pray, I want to meditate, I want to go on a walk. And another way of saying that is that, how do you normalize something that's hard, initially hard?
Mhm.
And so the response I give to that question is like, okay, how do you normalize exercise, working out, right? In the beginning, hard, you're sore, probably kind of
Mhm.
difficult. But then over time, if you're consistent, if you just practice it, you pass a certain threshold through which you actually prefer to work out than not work out. And it's like the like people that are runners, for example. People get addicted to running because if they don't run, they feel weird and stressed. They really need
Mhm.
to do that because that's normal to them. If you hit the gym 3 days a week, right? And if you do that for a few months, eventually you'll hit a milestone or benchmark where you're like, I feel weird not working out. And I would rather do that. And that's when you've struck gold, is when you've like actually normalized something that is quote unquote difficult or hard, And it's the same when we're practicing 5 virtues. You keep talking about them as muscles, right? And I think it's true. Like if you just do it once and then make a mental note afterwards, like how did I feel talking to my dad or my mom or my spouse or my kid about that really difficult thing? And I was really honest and vulnerable. And I let it all out. And then I received, nothing but love and grace and acceptance with whoever. How did that feel? It's like, that felt amazing. And then you're reinforced that this is actually really helpful and it's the ultimate best solution for our difficulties. And then you'll go back to it. And I think this is why, some people are better at managing things like addictions, for example. And I think because people have an ability to choose the right options when they're feeling difficult emotions, as opposed to choosing the normal thing to continue with, which is like go to my phone, isolate myself essentially. And I know we don't like thinking of things in black and white, but really that's what we're doing when we're feeling difficult emotions, is choosing a fork in the road, which is I isolate or I connect. And I think if it's helpful to think of like that, because then we can notice our decisions. It's like I'm feeling stressed and I just want to be alone in the bathroom, or go to my room and lie down, or go on that couch and go to my phone. Those sound like really innocent things, but usually that's what starts, especially with like porn addiction, the guys that we deal with, or guys and girls we deal with, is it really starts at that moment. But people don't realize it starts at that moment because it sounds really innocent. But that's like the impetus for isolation. And when you can label and I'd be like, oh, I'm isolating right now. And I can do that, or I can label the emotion, be like, oh, I'm just stressed and I'm going to go connect with God. I'm going to pray. I'm going to talk with somebody. I'm going to message somebody. I'm going to exercise, like whatever. There's like a billion things in the world to do that's better than going on a normal device. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. It's lifestyle, right? When something becomes just normal to the extent of unconscious, then it's just a part of your lifestyle. So part of that is, yeah, your identity too, right? So if somebody has identified as being a certain type of person, then their normals come with that lifestyle, right? So politically, right, there's the left and the right. And so if you identify as that, then there's certain things that you're supposed to view to be normal based on your political views, right? But um I would suggest that that's not entirely healthy, is just to adopt all the norms of your tribe. You should always revise and see which norms are healthy and which norms are not, and participate in those. And always curate. The idea of curation is really liberating, because it's like you don't have to figure it all out in one go. Just take your time, but slowly curate a life that makes sense, so that what is normal to you is happiness. That's kind of what you were alluding to when you were talking about growing up. It's like what is normal is people eating junk food, is people not taking care of themselves. Gossip is extremely normal in society. But what is not normal is somebody who's just happy for no reason. They're just like a fulfilled person walking around, not needing. Just you have enough of everything to give and you're happy to give. It doesn't mean that you're a multimillionaire, but you always have money to give because you like it's normal for you to give, right? All these come down to like a lifestyle. And so it is really, really super important to choose the normals that you want in your life will amount to a lifestyle that is normal. And if you have a bunch of healthy norms, you'll have like joy will be normal, right? And it's fine also to have bad days, but it would be when you do have bad days, if you want your normal to get over those bad days and to bounce back stronger, just practice, right? So yeah, in terms of your journey with high noon and with sexual integrity, it's also you're swimming upstream. That's part of our talks that we give, is like people aren't focusing on their sexual integrity. Most people aren't. It's just they're living a reactive life in every echelon of society, and it's really not productive or healthy. What we're asking you to do is to do something abnormal, and to actually care about, to first of all formulate a vision for your own sexuality is like something that's not even abnormal. It's unheard of. Nobody has a vision for their sexuality. It's just like as the most that I've ever heard is like, yeah, abstinence before marriage and then fidelity in marriage. That's not a vision. Fidelity isn't a vision. That's like a life sentence, right? It's not like joyful. It's not. There's no nuance. There's no beauty. There's no poetry in that. It's just like it's a
Don't.
sentence.
Just don't do this
Yeah.
and don't.
Here's your narrow lane. Live within that. And it's I think a joyful life and a meaningful life and a vibrant life requires of you some participation, a lot of participation of looking at what you want to be normal. And that's what High Noon is asking, right? Is we're making a new normal culture. This culture is one where we talk about difficult things. It's one where we don't demonize mistakes, but rather we optimize mistakes so that they stop being mistakes, so that they become life lessons and that we grow from them, that we don't demand perfection, but we really expect living the 5 High Noon virtues, because that's clearly the best way to live. So the culture that we're creating and that we've been creating for the past nearly 10 years in High Noon is not normal, it's exceptional. So would you prefer normal, which is like, I used to make videos on TikTok. This is probably 6 years ago, 5 years ago, about pornography and about like very countercultural, and I was attacked viciously. I would say 100 to 1 negative comments versus positive comments, and they went a bunch of them went pretty viral. Like, and I was getting comments like, I'm on the wrong side of the internet right now. And people being like, what is happening? Why is this person saying that porn is bad? Because it wasn't even offensive to them. It was so abnormal. Like, what do you mean porn's bad for you? It was, we're not normal, because normal really in this world, in terms of sexuality, sucks and is broken. And that's what humanity's been used to. So if you do want exceptional, roll with us. Keep on practicing and curating, your normals. What do you want to be normal? Look at your life in terms of like your habits, daily habits, food, exercise, conversations, isolation versus connection. Also look at your heart and your mind and your spirituality. I think a lot of people do things in our faith without a heart. They're just doing it with their body or just doing it out of guilt or whatever. Definitely not the point. The point is to choose a vibrant spiritual life requires you to be conscious. That's the whole point, is to be conscious. So anyway, yeah, do an inventory of your life and see what is normal and healthy and you like it, celebrate that. What is normal and unhealthy, change on it, curate it, choose a new normal, work on that, take some time. You can do it. Any last words, Bahonja?
You can do it. You can do it. Y'all can do it.
Wonderful. Thanks for those words, Benji. Benji's normal is being fabulous, everybody. So have a great week. Please give us in your comments what are if you have the guts, what are the things that you are used to that are normal to you but not healthy? But if not, don't worry. At least give us the things that are normal to you that you do like, that you do enjoy, because I'm sure everybody has those. So let us know, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite. And one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.